The 1972-73 Darryl Sittler O-Pee-Chee 188 hockey card. As per the back of the card, a young player whom Leafs have great hopes for, Darryl was their first round choice in the 1970 amateur draft, and he made the jump from junior A to the NHL. Missed a third of his first pro season because of a broken wrist, but was able to come back and regain a regular berth. A closer look. 1972-73 was a breakout year for Darryl Sittler with 29 goals and 48 assists for 77 points. He more than doubled his offensive production from the year before. Of course, he would go on to a Hockey Hall of Fame career with Toronto, the Philadelphia Flyers, and Detroit Red Wings. Sittler was the 8th overall pick in the first round of the 1970 NHL amateur draft. He was picked from the London Knights, where he played from 67-68 to 69-70. Gilbert Perreault was first in the draft that year, taken by the expansion Buffalo Sabres. The Billy Smith 1973-74 O-Pee-Chee 142 hockey card. As per the back of the card, Billy is a real battler for a goalie. He won't hesitate to act as a policeman in his crease, and he accumulated 42 minutes in the penalty box last season. He broke into the NHL with the Los Angeles Kings, playing 5 games in 1971-72. Billy led the Springfield Kings to the AHL Championship in 1971. A closer look. Billy Smith did play a major role in the success of the 1970-71 Springfield Kings in the American Hockey League. He played 49 games during the regular season, sporting a 3.51 goals against average with 2 shutouts. The team actually finished 6 games below 500 but caught fire in the postseason. Smith played all 12 games for Springfield in the playoffs. The team lost just a single game while taking out the Quebec Aces, Montreal Voyageurs, Cleveland Barons, and Providence Reds. They swept the Reds in the final to capture the Calder Cup. The Brad Park 1979-80 O-Pee-Chee number 23 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, Brad set playoff record with 9 goals as defenseman in 1977-78. Brad set mark with 27th career playoff goal in 1979. A closer look. That single playoff season mark of 9 goals put up by Brad Park in 1977-78 still stands today, tied for 4th most all time. He is tied with Bobby Orr, who scored 9 with the Boston Bruins in 1969-70. Orr accomplished the feat playing 1 less game than Park. The current record for most goals by a defenseman in a single playoff season belongs to Paul Coffey. Paul put up 12 goals for the Edmonton Oilers in 1984-85. When all was said and done, Brad Park totaled 35 playoff goals over his career. That mark today places him 7th on the all-time list. Leading the way again is Paul Coffey with 59. Andre Lacroix 1969-70 O-Pee-Chee number 98 hockey card. Written on the back, Speedy Frenchie Lacroix was a real find for Philadelphia fans. Always a star in junior hockey, Andre was twice picked as league MVP over Bobby Orr. He had a 4-point game for a spectacular NHL debut. He's a good skater. A closer look. Andre Lacroix was definitely a star in junior hockey. Playing for the Peterborough Petes in what is now the OHL, Lacroix won the Red Tilson Trophy as the league's most outstanding player in both 1964-65 and 1965-66. In 65-66, he led the league with 120 points, earning the Eddie Powers Trophy. Andre had 119 points in 64-65, but fell 4 points behind Ken Hodge of the St. Catharines Blackhawks for the league lead. Lacroix would go on to be a 2-time scoring champion in the World Hockey Association. He led the WHA in 1972-73 with 124 points for the Philadelphia Blazers. 2 years later, in 1974-75, he led the league with 147 points as a member of the San Diego Mariners. The 4-point night. A bit of an error on the back of this card. Andre Lacroix did have a spectacular 4-point night at the start of his career, but it wasn't his first game. It was his second. On February 22, 1968, in a game played at the Spectrum in Philadelphia, Andre Lacroix did put up 4 points. The Flyers beat the Minnesota North Stars by a score of 7-3. Andre had a goal and 3 assists. All 3 helpers were on goals by Leon Roquefort. However, Lacroix's goal was his second of the season, and it was his second game of the year. The night before, the Flyers played the Pittsburgh Penguins at the Pittsburgh Civic Arena. The game ended in a 1-1 tie. Lacroix scored the lone Philadelphia goal at 4:40 of the second period, assisted by Jean-Guy Gendron. The Bert Olmstead 1954-55 Parkhurst number 5 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, a reliable, thorough workman, Bert had his best season last year when he racked up 52 points to place 5th in the point race. One of hockey's best puck carriers behind his own line, He has a knack of playing the puck off the boards in the corners and getting away from 2 or 3 men with his tricky stick work. A good passer, accurate shot, and hard worker, Bert has become an important cog in the Canadian machine. Works hard during the summer too, as he owns a large farm at Sittler. A closer look. Bert Olmstead's 52 points in 1953-54 did place him 5th in the race for the Art Ross Trophy. His strength was his 37 assists that put him 2nd in the NHL behind only Gordie Howe of the Detroit Red Wings. The good passer comment is an understatement. In 1954-55, Olmstead led the National Hockey League with 48 assists, 5 more than Montreal Canadiens teammate Doug Harvey. He did it again in 1955-56, this time with a career-high 56 assists, 9 more than second-place Andy Bathgate of the New York Rangers. Bert played 848 regular season and 115 playoff games in the National Hockey League between 1948-49 and 1961-62 with the Chicago Blackhawks, Montreal Canadiens, and Toronto Maple Leafs. The Denis Ververgaert 1978-79 O-Pee-Chee 52 hockey card. As for the back of the card, one of Denis's fondest memories is the night of January 20th, 1976, when he scored 2 goals in the NHL All-Star Game at Philadelphia. A strong skater with great stamina. A closer look. Denis Ververgaert did score 2 goals at the 1976 NHL All-Star Game, played at the Spectrum in Philadelphia. What the card doesn't say is that he scored those 2 goals within 10 seconds of each other. In the third period, Ververgaert scored at 4:33. He then scored again at 4:43. Both goals were assisted by Brian Trottier and Billy Harris, both from the New York Islanders. Going into the third period, Denis's Campbell Conference team was down 7-1 to the Wales Conference team. Ververgaert's quick goals and follow-up goals by Denis Potvin and Steve Vickers made the final score a respectable 7-5 loss. The Derek Sanderson 1968-69 O-Pee-Chee No. 6 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, like teammate Bobby Orr, Derek Sanderson has outstanding credentials in junior hockey. Also like Orr, Sanderson won the NHL Rookie of the Year award with a stunning 24-goal output last season. He's just a youngster at 22 years old. A closer look. Derek Sanderson's 24 goals in his 1967-68 rookie campaign indeed earned him Calder Trophy honors as National Hockey League Rookie of the Year. However, it wouldn't get much better than that over his NHL career. Sanderson topped out with a 29-goal performance for the Bruins in 1970-71. Not quite what fans envisioned after his 41 goals in 47 games for the Niagara Falls Flyers in his final season of major junior hockey. The Denis DeJordy 1961-62 Topps No. 37 hockey card. As for the back of the card, Denis is a little goalie who's considered the heir apparent to Glenn Hall. His first year out of juniors, 1959-60, he was named Rookie of the Year with Sault Ste. Marie and Eastern Pro League. Last year he split time between that club and Buffalo, then backed up Hull in playoffs. A closer look. Playing for the Sault Ste. Marie Thunderbirds of the EPHL in 1959-60, Denis DeJordy did indeed earn Rookie of the Year honors. He appeared in 69 of the team's 70 regular season games, posting a 3.74 goals against average. Unfortunately, the team finished 5th in the 6-team league and did not qualify for the postseason. In 1960-61, DeJordy did split the season between the Thunderbirds and the Buffalo Bisons of the American Hockey League. However, the card fails to justify the season he had. Denis played 40 games for Sault Ste. Marie and 33 more in the AHL for Buffalo for a total of 73 games played as a goalie. Definitely yeoman's work. Topps jumped the gun a little bit. Sure, Denis DeJordy did become a National Hockey League goaltender, but it wasn't in 1961-62. He did get into 5 games for the Blackhawks in 62-63 and 6 more the year after. But it wasn't until the 1964-65 season that Denis got enough action to be considered an NHL rookie, playing 30 games between the pipes for Chicago. His 1961-62 and 1962-63 seasons were not a waste though. Full-time with the Buffalo Bisons, Denis played the bulk of the team's games. In 1961-62, he led the team to the Calder Cup final before losing to the Springfield Indians. In 62-63, DeJordy was awarded the Les Cunningham Award as the AHL's most valuable player and the Harry Hap Holmes Memorial Award as the league's top goaltender. The Bisons captured the Calder Cup championship, beating the Hershey Bears in the final. In 1966-67, with Glenn Hall as his backup, although both split the season fairly evenly. Denis won the Vezina Trophy. His NHL career would last until 1973-74, also playing for the Los Angeles Kings, Montreal Canadiens, and Detroit Red Wings. Dan Bouchard, 1973-74 O-Pee-Chee number 45 hockey card. Written on the back, Dan was a first-team All-Star with Boston of the American League in 1971-72 and won the AHL's leading goalie award that season, originally the property of the Boston Bruins. A closer look. With the Boston Braves in 1971-72, Dan Bouchard appeared in 50 regular season games, posting a 2.51 goals against average and adding 4 shutouts. He was indeed awarded the Hap Holmes Memorial Award as the AHL's top goaltender. Originally the property of the Boston Bruins, Bouchard was taken in the second round of the 1970 NHL Amateur Draft, 27th overall after a year of major junior hockey with the London Knights. He never played for the Bruins and was taken by the Atlanta Flames in the 1972 expansion draft. Dan would have a lengthy NHL career with the Flames, Quebec Nordiques, and Winnipeg Jets. The Bobby Hull 1964-65 Topps number 20 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, hockey's golden boy, Bobby is co-holder of NHL record for most goals in a season with 50. Broke in with the Hawks at 18, now has 225 in 7 seasons in NHL. An All-Star 3 years, Bobby has led the league in scoring 1959-60 and 1961-62. Topped NHL last season as a goal scorer with 43. Bobby has a kid brother, Denis, who's rated a fine prospect. A closer look. Bobby Hull's record of 50 goals in a single NHL season was first accomplished in 1961-62 with the Chicago Blackhawks. 2 players had been there before, Maurice Richard with the Montreal Canadiens in 1944-45 and Bernie Geoffrion, also the Canadiens, in 1960-61. The record would progress in 1965-66 when Hull scored 54 goals, then again in 68-69 when he netted 58. That record did not remain in Bobby's hands long. Phil Esposito put in 76 goals in 1970-71. The current record stands at 92, set by Wayne Gretzky of the Edmonton Oilers in 1981-82. He did lead the NHL in scoring in 59-60 and 61-62, earning the Art Ross Trophy. Hull would add 1 more to the trophy cabinet when he led the NHL in 65-66 with 97 points. Dennis Hull also went on to a decent NHL career. Bobby's kid brother played 959 regular season and 104 playoff games in the National Hockey League between 1964-65 and 1977-78. His career was mostly spent with the Blackhawks, but he played his final season with the Detroit Red Wings. The Bobby Orr 1966-67 Topps 35 NHL hockey card. Written on the back of the card, Bobby came to the Bruins directly from the Oshawa Generals Junior A club. He is the most publicized junior in many years and certainly will become one of the future stars in the NHL. A rushing defenseman who can set up goals as well as score them. A closer look. Bobby Orr was quite a star with the Oshawa Generals, and we all know how his National Hockey League career turned out. Orr was with the Gens for 4 seasons from 1962-63 to 1965-66. Interestingly, he earned 0 individual awards but was named a first-team All-Star in each of his final 3 seasons. In fairness, there wasn't a trophy for Best Defenseman until 1968-69. The Red Tilson Trophy for MVP went to Andre Lacroix of the Peterborough Petes for both 1964-65 and 1965-66. In 64-65, the Blue Liner scored 34 goals and totaled 93 points in 56 games. The following year, he upped those numbers to 38 goals and 94 points in just 47 games. As well, in 65-66, he helped the Generals to a J. Ross Robertson Cup championship. However, Oshawa fell to the Edmonton Oil Kings in 6 games at the Memorial Cup final. As predicted on the card, Orr's impact on the game was immediate. He was awarded the Calder Trophy as Rookie of the Year in 66-67. The following year started a run of 8 consecutive Norris Trophy wins as the NHL's top blue liner. Over his injury-shortened National Hockey League career, Bobby won the Hart Trophy 3 times as the league's most valuable player. He remained the only defenseman to win the Art Ross Trophy as the NHL's top scorer. He accomplished that feat twice. Orr helped the Bruins to 2 Stanley Cup championships and was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1979. The Bobby Rousseau 1970-71 O-Pee-Chee number 170 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, one of the most spectacular offensive players in the NHL. Averaged almost 22 goals a season for 9 seasons with Montreal Canadiens. Obtained by North Stars in a trade with Canadians after 69-70 season, Rousseau's shot was expected to put more accuracy in North Stars' power play. A closer look. Bobby Rousseau came to the Minnesota North Stars via June 10, 1970 trade with the Montreal Canadiens. Going in the other direction was Claude LaRose. Things didn't go well for Bobby in Minnesota. In 1970-71, he scored just 4 goals in 63 regular season games, adding 2 more in 12 playoff games. By the start of the 1971-72 season, Rousseau was a member of the New York Rangers. With the new team, his scoring ability came back. Bobby registered 21 goals in 78 games with the Rangers and helped the club reach the Stanley Cup final before losing to the Boston Bruins. He led New York with 17 points over 16 playoff games. On the night of February 1, 1964, Rousseau had a 5-goal night for the Montreal Canadiens in a 9-3 win over the Detroit Red Wings. With 9 shots on Roger Crozier, Bobby wowed the home crowd at the Montreal Forum with 5 even-strength goals. Henri Richard had a 5-assist night with 4 coming on Rousseau goals. Bobby played 942 regular season and 128 playoff games in the National Hockey League between 1960-61 and 1974-75 with the Montreal Canadiens, North Stars, and Rangers. He was honored with the Calder Trophy in 1961-62 as the NHL's Rookie of the Year. Bruce Campbell, 1969-70 O-Pee-Chee NHL hockey card. As per the back of the card, usually when a player is said to be streaky, it's a knock, but not Bruce Campbell. The robust goalie often gets a hot hand and once ran off 4 shutouts in 8 games. He's also played for New York and Boston. A deeper look at the details. This card contains an error, but definitely in Bruce Campbell's favor. In 1965-66, Campbell played much of the season in the CPHL with the Tulsa Oilers. However, he had a 10-game stint with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He actually had 4 shutouts in 5 games that year, not 8 games as stated on the back of the card. More info on this hockey card can be found at our website. Follow the link in the description. The Curt Bennett 1973-74 O-Pee-Chee 149 hockey card. As per the back of the card, Curt is a former All-American at Brown University and he can play either left wing, center, or defense. He's not a heavily penalized player, but he is aggressive enough. The Flames got Curt a trade with the New York Rangers. A closer look. In just 24 games with Brown in 1969-70, Curt Bennett scored 26 goals and assisted on 37 for 63 points. This placed him in second in NCAA scoring, 5 points behind Tim Sheehy of Boston College. He was an All-American forward for the East and was named a first-team All-Star in the ECAC. Originally drafted by the St. Louis Blues in the second round of the 1968 NHL Amateur Draft, Curt saw his first National Hockey League action in 1970-71 with the Blues, appearing in 4 regular season and 2 playoff games. After starting 1972-73 with the New York Rangers, Bennett was traded to the Atlanta Flames on November 29, 1972 for Ron Harris. With Atlanta, Curt's NHL career took off. He had 2 30-plus goal seasons with the Flames, topping out with 34 goals in 1975-76. A bit of a boomerang career, Bennett ended up back in St. Louis midway through the 1977-78 season. He was traded to the Blues along with Barry Gibbs and Phil Muir for Yves Belanger, Bob McMillan, and Dick Redmond. However, he ended up back with Atlanta for the 1979-80 season, his last in the NHL. Dean Prentice, 1958-59, Topps NHL hockey card. As per the back of the card, leg injuries kept a highly rated sniper out of action for half season. A deeper look at the details. Dean Prentice was back healthy for 1958-59, playing in a full 70-game schedule for the New York Rangers. However, the highly rated sniper put in just 17 goals, barely over the total of 13 he scored in 1957-58 when he appeared in just 38 games. The following year, in 1959-60, Prentice had a career high of 32 goals, the only time he would surpass the 30-goal plateau over his long NHL career. Dean played 1,378 regular season games between 1952-53 and 1973-74 with the Rangers, Boston Bruins, Detroit Red Wings, Pittsburgh Penguins, and Minnesota North Stars. Over that time, he netted 391 goals. Don McKenney, 1962-63, Topps NHL hockey card. As per the back of the card, only once in 8 years as Boston center has Don failed to score 20 or more goals. Needs only 19 this season to hit the 200 goal mark, though he's still a young man. Don won Lady Byng Award 3 years ago when he collected 69 points. A deeper look at the details. This was a significant point in Don McKenney's National Hockey League career. Don was traded to the New York Rangers 41 games into the 1962-63 NHL season. Going in the other direction from the Rangers to Bruins was Dean Prentice. His time with the Rangers didn't last long. Just over a year later, McKenney was traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs with Andy Bathgate. Going to the Rangers were Bob Nevin, Dick Duff, Bill Collins, Arnie Brown, and Rod Sealing. More info on this hockey card can be found at our website. Follow the link in the description. The Ed Van Impe 1972-73 O-Pee-Chee number 33 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, hard-hitting Eddie was the Philadelphia team's first pick in the 1967 expansion draft. He twice led the AHL in penalties before cracking the NHL with Chicago in 1966-67. Ed seldom scores a goal, but he specializes in keeping the opposition off the scoreboard with tough body checks. Ed is the Flyers team captain. A closer look. Error. Ed Van Impe was actually the third pick by the Philadelphia Flyers at the 1967 expansion draft. Ahead of him were goaltenders Bernie Parent and Doug Favell. As a member of the Buffalo Bisons, Ed led the AHL with 196 minutes in 62-63. The following year, 63-64, he led again with 193 minutes. Those two seasons were sandwiched in between second-place finishes in 61-62 with 172 minutes and 64-65 with 197 minutes. Eddie Shack, 1960-61, Topps number 7 hockey card. Written on the back, which American-born players won the Calder Trophy? A closer look. This card contains an error, or at least an omission. At the time, there were 3 US-born players to win the Calder Trophy as the NHL's Rookie of the Year. However, on the back of this card, it lists just 2 of those winners. Cully Dahlstrom and Frank Brimsick are listed as the answers to the trivia question. Carl Cully Dahlstrom, born in Minneapolis, Minnesota, won the award in 1937-38 as a member of the Chicago Blackhawks. Frank Brimsick won the award the following year in 1938-39 as a member of the Boston Bruins. Brimsick was also a Minnesota boy born in Epaulet. However, the trivia question ignores the first ever winner of the Calder Memorial Trophy. Carl Voss won the award in 1932-33. Voss split the season between the New York Rangers and Detroit Red Wings. The ironic thing about the NHL career of Carl Voss, born in Chelsea, Massachusetts, a city that connects to Boston, is that he played for 8 different teams: the Maple Leafs, the New York Rangers, Detroit Red Wings, Ottawa Senators, St. Louis Eagles, New York Americans, Montreal Maroons, and Chicago Blackhawks, but never the Boston Bruins. Since Brimsick, there have been 8 U.S. players to win the Calder as of 2021-22. The next winner was 45 years after Frank and was another goalie. Tom Barrasso, born in Boston, won the award in 1983-84 as a member of the Buffalo Sabres. The Gump Worsley 1967-68 Topps number 1 hockey card. Written on the back of the card. Sidelined by injuries, Gump did not play steady last year, but Montreal thought enough of him to protect him in the NHL expansion draft. A closer look. It's a good thing Montreal did protect Gump Worsley in the NHL expansion draft. The goalie put up an incredible performance in 1967-68 and earned the Vezina Trophy. It was his second of 2 times winning the award. He shared the honor with Rogatien Vachon as the 2 spent equal time in the Montreal nets. When it came to the postseason that year, Worsley appeared in 12 of Montreal's 13 games. The team captured the Stanley Cup championship, beating Boston and Chicago before sweeping the St. Louis Blues in the final. Eventually, though, one of the 1967 expansion teams got a hold of Gump. On February 27, 1970, he was sold to the Minnesota North Stars. Worsley finished out his career with the North Stars, playing until the end of the 1973-74 NHL season. Guy Lafleur, 1976-77 O-Pee-Chee number 163. Written on the back, Montreal's top offensive threat last season, Guy ranks as one of the top superstars in the NHL. Had 18 power play goals in 1975-76. A closer look. Guy Lafleur's 125 points in 1975-76 for the Montreal Canadiens earned him his first of 3 consecutive Art Ross Trophy wins as the top scorer in the National Hockey League. His 56-goal total was the second in a string of 6 consecutive seasons, topping the 50-goal plateau. He would reach a career best of 60 goals 2 years later in 1977-78. The mentioned 18 power play goals put him one behind league leader Phil Esposito of the New York Rangers and tied him with Pierre LaRouche of the Pittsburgh Penguins, Denny Potvin of the New York Islanders, and Rick Martin of the Buffalo Sabres. It was the best power play goal performance of Lafleur's Hockey Hall of Fame NHL career. Of his 560 regular season goals, 154 were scored with the man advantage. The Harry Howell 1967-68 Topps 84 hockey card. As for the back of the card, New York's veteran defenseman Harry is starting his 16th year as a Ranger. Last season he played perhaps the best hockey of his 15 years in the NHL, was named #1 defenseman on the NHL All-Star team and awarded the James Norris Trophy as best NHL defenseman. A closer look. Offensively, 1966-67 would prove to be a career year in the NHL for Harry Howell. A big deal considering he played 21 plus 3 in the WHA. His 12 goals and 40 points were personal bests. His Calder Trophy win was significant. Harry Howell was the last winner of the trophy before Bobby Orr of the Boston Bruins dominated the award for an amazing 8 consecutive years. The Henri Richard 1957-58 Parkhurst No. 4 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, though still not as productive as the game's brightest stars, Henri Richard takes a backseat to no player when it comes to colorful, fascinating hockey skill. Henri has inherited enough of the famous family traits to be considered one of the league's top centers and certainly one of the most mature, thinking players in hockey today. A closer look. It's like Henri Richard took what was written on the back of this 1957-58 Parkhurst hockey card to heart. In 57-58, he certainly became just as productive as the game's brightest stars. In 67 games, he scored 28 goals and assisted on 52 for 80 points. Richard led the NHL with his 52 assists and finished in second in the race for the Art Ross Trophy, just 4 points behind winner and teammate Dickie Moore. The Ian Turnbull 1975-76 O-Pee-Chee No. 41 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, missed most of last season due to injury, served as captain of his junior team for 1971-72, was twice named to second All-Star squad in junior league competition. A closer look. The back of this Ian Turnbull 1975-76 O-Pee-Chee hockey card focuses mostly on his junior career, so we will too. Turnbull played 4 years in the OHA Junior A from 1969-70 to 1972-73. His first 3 years were with the Montreal Junior Canadiens, and his final season was with the Ottawa 67s. He was a second-team All-Star in 71-72 with the Junior Canadiens. That team left the league for the QMJHL after a dismal season, and Ian moved up the river to Ottawa for his final campaign. He was again a second-team All-Star on the blue line in 72-73 and helped the 67s to a third-place finish in the 10-team league. Pete Lopresti, 1977-78 O-Pee-Chee NHL hockey card. As per the back of the card, was the youngest regular goaltender in NHL in 1974-75, his first full season in the league. Gained his first NHL shutout against the then Stanley Cup champion Philadelphia Flyers. Played hockey in high school and attended Denver University. A deeper look at the details. That first shutout came on February 8, 1975 at home at the Metropolitan Sports Center. Going into the game, the Flyers were 33-12-7, while the Minnesota North Stars were off in the other direction at 13-32-6. Lopresti turned away 26 shots for the shutout against a Philly team that had all their firepower in the lineup. The North Stars won 5-0. More info on this hockey card can be found at our website. Follow the link in the description. The Jacques Plante 1960-61 Parkhurst No. 53 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, only goalie in history to win the Vezina 5 successive years, Plante has had a sensational career in the NHL. He was a member of the first All-Star team twice, and a member of the second team 3 times. A colorful player, he likes to play far out of his goal. Possessor of a great pair of hands, he is at his best under pressure. A closer look. 1960-61 would be the end of Jacques Plante's 5-year reign on the Vezina Trophy. However, he would win the award twice more during his incredible career, 1961-62 with the Montreal Canadiens and 1968-69 with the St. Louis Blues. To date, Plante is the only NHL goalie to win the Vezina in 5 consecutive seasons. Ken Dryden of the Canadiens won the award in 4 straight years in the 70s. Dominic Hasek of the Buffalo Sabres won the award in 6 of 8 seasons between 93-94 and 2000-2001, but not winning it more than 3 consecutive years. The Larry Hillman 1958-59 Topps No. 25 hockey card. As per the back of the card, grabbed on waivers from Hawks, Hillman owns one of the hardest slap shots in hockey. comes of a hockey-playing family, one younger brother, one older in game. A closer look. Larry Hillman was claimed off waivers by the Boston Bruins from the Chicago Blackhawks prior to the 1957-58 NHL season. However, what wasn't mentioned is that Chicago had claimed Hillman off waivers from the Detroit Red Wings just prior to that. He started his National Hockey League career with the Red Wings and never actually played for the Blackhawks. As for his brothers, Floyd Hillman was 4 years older than Larry. Floyd played just 6 games in the NHL, all with the Bruins in 1956-57. Younger brother Wayne was just a year younger than Larry. Wayne Hillman played 691 regular season and 28 playoff games in the NHL between 1960-61 and 1972-73 with the Blackhawks, New York Rangers, Minnesota North Stars, and Philadelphia Flyers. Larry played 791 regular season and 74 Stanley Cup playoff games in the National Hockey League between 1954-55 and 1972-73 with the Red Wings, Bruins, Toronto Maple Leafs, Montreal Canadiens, Minnesota North Stars, Philadelphia Flyers, Los Angeles Kings, and Buffalo Sabres. Jim Rutherford, 1974-75 O-Pee-Chee NHL hockey card. As per the back of the card, Jim is one of the league's smallest goaltenders, but he's also one of the most effective. When he's hot, the opposition often feels like it's shooting at a brick wall. He's having his second run with the Red Wings, having played 29 games in Detroit during the 1970-71 season. Jim is one of the quickest goalies in the NHL. A deeper look at the details. This indeed was Rutherford's second stint as a member of the Detroit Red Wings. He was brought up in the Wings system playing junior hockey for the Hamilton Red Wings. He was claimed by the Penguins in the 1971 Intra-League Draft. More info on this hockey card can be found at our website. Follow the link in the description. The Lou Angotti 1968-69 O-Pee-Chee 103 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, even though he captained the Philadelphia Flyers to the West Division Championship last season, Lou Angotti was dealt to the Pittsburgh Penguins over the summer. He's a real pepper pot on the ice and constantly wins fans' affection. Lou was an All-American selection while in college. A closer look. Just like his time with the Philadelphia Flyers, time for Lou Angotti with the Pittsburgh Penguins would be short. He spent just the 1968-69 season in western Pennsylvania before moving to the Chicago Blackhawks. It wasn't a direct trip, however. The St. Louis Blues traded Craig Cameron and Ron Shaw to the Pens on June 6, 1969 in exchange for Lou. However, before the 1969-70 season began, the Blackhawks claimed him in the intra-league draft. It was a similar situation when Angotti came to the Penguins from Philadelphia. It all went down on June 11, 1968. First, the Flyers traded Lou to the Blues with Ian Campbell for Darryl Edestrand and Jerry Melnick. Later in the day, St. Louis shipped him to Pittsburgh with Ab McDonald going in the other direction. Lou would eventually actually play for St. Louis. He appeared in 51 games with the club in 1973-74, his last season in the National Hockey League. Angotti played 653 regular season and 65 Stanley Cup playoff games in the NHL between 64-65 and 73-74 with the New York Rangers, Blackhawks, Flyers, Penguins, and Blues. He moved to the WHA for a single season in 1974-75 to play 26 games for the Chicago Cougars. Lou played his collegiate career from 1959-60 to 1961-62. He was an All-American with Michigan Tech. The Mark Howe 1977-78 O-Pee-Chee number 25 WHA hockey card. Written on the back of the card, the youngest player in WHA's brief history to score over 100 goals, Mark had 5 hat tricks for Houston Aeros during the 1975-76 season. Equipped with one of the best wrist shots in pro hockey, he teams with his father, Gordie Howe, to form one of the WHA's top penalty-killing duos. A closer look. Mark Howe would have been 21 when he surpassed the 100-goal plateau during the 1975-76 WHA season. The only season of his 6 that he spent in the WHA when he didn't surpass the 30-goal mark was his injury-shortened 1976-77 campaign shown on the back of this card. Now a member of the Hockey Hall of Fame and known for his play as a defenseman in the National Hockey League, Howe's stats as a forward in the WHA are pretty impressive. In 426 regular season games with the Houston Aeros and New England Whalers, he scored 208 goals and assisted on 296 for 504 points. Even more impressive was Mark's 91 points in 75 WHA playoff games. He helped the Aeros to 2 Avco World Trophy Championships. With the Whalers, he reached the final in 1977-78 before being swept by the Bobby Hull-led Winnipeg Jets. After the WHA and NHL merged for the 1979-80 season, Hal went on to a lengthy career in the National Hockey League. He played 929 regular season and 101 playoff games between 1979-80 and 1994-95 with the Hartford Whalers, Philadelphia Flyers, and Detroit Red Wings. The Mark Messier 1980-81 O-Pee-Chee number 289 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, one of the strongest players on Oilers' squad, he combines that with outstanding speed and agility. His robust style of play makes him a favorite of the Edmonton fans. The Oilers play their home games at Northlands Coliseum. A closer look. The 1980-81 NHL season would see Mark Messier double his numbers with 23 goals, 40 assists, and 63 points. By 81-82, Messier was a 50-goal scorer, and by 1982-83, he topped the 100-point plateau. Not bad for a third-round pick in 1979. Mark's 50 goals in 1981-82 would be the only time he'd reach the plateau, but he certainly could find the back of the net with 694 goals over his National Hockey League career. He topped 100 points 6 times during his career, with his best coming in 1989-90 with 129. Messier played 1,756 regular season and 236 playoff games in the NHL between 1979-80 and 2003-2004 with the Edmonton Oilers, New York Rangers, and Vancouver Canucks. He won the Conn Smythe Trophy in 1983-84 and has his name on the Hart Trophy twice. Mark was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2007. As for the trivia snippet, the Edmonton Oilers played home games at the Northlands Coliseum from 1974-75, their third season in the WHA, until the end of the 2015-2016 NHL season. The venue had a capacity of 17,100 spectators for hockey. The Mickey Redmond 1972-73 O-Pee-Chee number 99 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, last season was Mickey's finest ever. The versatile forward owns a powerful slap shot, and he led the Wings with 10 power play goals last season. Mickey is also a top playmaker and has some of the quickest moves in the league. He broke in as a rookie with Montreal. A closer look. Actually, it would be the 1972-73 NHL season that was Mickey Redmond's finest season ever. He scored 52 goals and assisted on 41 for 93 points, all career highs. He finished second in the league for goal scoring, just 3 goals behind first place Phil Esposito at the Boston Bruins. Redmond followed that performance up with 52 goals in 1973-74. However, injuries would destroy his National Hockey League career. He would play sparingly over the next 2 seasons before retiring. The Mike Gartner 1980-81 O-Pee-Chee number 195 hockey card. Written on the back of the card. Finished second in voting for WHA's Rookie of the Year for 1978-79 season. A teammate of Ryan Walter in junior hockey before turning pro. Led Capitals in scoring 1979-80. Steve Atkinson scored Capitals' first successful penalty shot on February 1st, 1974. A closer look. The 1978-79 winner of the Lou Kaplan Trophy as Rookie of the Year in the World Hockey Association, of course, went to Wayne Gretzky of the Edmonton Oilers. Finishing second to the Great One is quite an honor. The line about being a teammate of Ryan Walter in junior hockey is a bit deceiving. Mike Gartner played in the OHL with the St. Catharines Blackhawks and Niagara Falls Flyers, while Walter played in the WHL with the Kamloops Chiefs and Seattle Breakers. However, both Mike and Ryan were teammates with Team Canada at the 1978 World Juniors. The tournament was held in Montreal and Quebec City, and Canada came out with a bronze. Both Gartner and Walter contributed 8 points. That total was not good enough for the top 10, with Wayne Gretzky leading the tournament with 17 points. Gartner's 36 goals and 68 points did lead the Washington Capitals in 1979-80. His 32 assists were down the list, with Robert Picard leading the way with 43. Ryan Walter was second with 42. Mike Gartner would play 1,432 regular season and 122 playoff games in the National Hockey League between 1979-80 and 1997-98 with the Capitals, Minnesota North Stars, New York Rangers, Toronto Maple Leafs, and Phoenix Coyotes. Gartner is one of only 8 players in NHL history to score more than 700 goals. His 708 placed him in the 8th spot. Mike was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2001. His jersey number 11 was retired by the Capitals in 2008. A look at the trivia snippet. Error. The date is a year off. Steve Atkinson did score on a penalty shot, but it was on February 1st, 1975. The Capitals weren't even in the NHL on February 1st, 1974. The game was on the road against the Vancouver Canucks at the Pacific Coliseum. At the time, Washington was shorthanded, killing off a hooking penalty on Mike Bloom. Atkinson was awarded the penalty shot at 12:57 of the second period and scored his 8th goal of the 1974-75 NHL season. It didn't help Washington's luck. The Capitals could not win their 5th game of the year, instead dropping their 42nd in a 5-2 loss. Ken Lockett was between the pipes for the Canucks. The Peter McNabb 1977-78 O-Pee-Chee 18 hockey card. As for the back of the card, played collegiate hockey at Denver University where he was an All-American selection. While in college, he played in NCAA championships at Boston Garden 6 years ago. Was AHL Rookie of the Year. Peter's father is general manager of the Capitals. A closer look. In 1972-73, Peter McNabb finished 6th in NCAA scoring with 32 goals and 40 assists for 72 points in 38 games for the University of Denver Pioneers. The team's participation in the NCAA championships, however, comes with a big asterisk. Denver lost in the championship game to Wisconsin 4-2. Peter McNabb was named to the all-tournament team. But after the tournament, Denver was vacated from the results after some recruiting violations came to the surface. There is an error on this hockey card. McNabb was never awarded the Dudley Red Garrett Memorial Award as American Hockey League Rookie of the Year. He did have an outstanding season with the Cincinnati Swords in his only AHL season, 1973-74. He led the team with 73 points in just 49 games. Peter played 954 regular season and 107 playoff games in the NHL between 1973-74 and 1986-87 with the Buffalo Sabres, Boston Bruins, Vancouver Canucks, and New Jersey Devils. He finished with 363 goals and had 6 consecutive seasons with the Bruins where he scored 35 or more. He topped out with 41 goals in 1977-78. As for his father, Max McNabb, he was the general manager of the Washington Capitals from 1976-77 to 1980-81. He then took over as GM of the New Jersey Devils from 1983-84 to 1986-87. He played parts of 4 seasons in the NHL from 1947-48 to 1950-51 with the Detroit Red Wings. Despite his short time in the NHL as a player, Max went to the Stanley Cup final with the Red Wings in 1948-49 before losing to the Maple Leafs. The following year, 1949-50, the Red Wings were in the final again, this time beating the Montreal Canadiens for the championship. The Red Berenson 1974-75 O-Pee-Chee 19 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, nicknamed the Red Baron, Red holds the modern-day record of 6 goals in 1 game, a mark he set against Philadelphia in 1968. 4 of the goals came in 1 period. A smooth, effortless skater, Red is a top playmaker and a fine defensive player as well. Has also played for Montreal, New York, and St. Louis. Was an All-American selection while in college. A closer look. On November 7, 1968, Red Berenson scored 6 goals for the St. Louis Blues in an 8-0 drubbing of the Philadelphia Flyers. To add insult to injury, it was a road game for the Blues played at the Spectrum in Philadelphia. To date, Berenson remains one of just 8 players to score 6 or more goals in a single NHL game. Joe Malone scored 7 on January 31, 1920, but that is not considered the modern era of NHL hockey. On that night in Philly, Berenson scored the only goal in the first period, assisted by Ab McNaughton and Noel Picard. In the second period, Red's stick took on a magical glow. He scored all 4 goals in the second period for 5 unanswered on the game. After Terry Crisp and Noel Picard scored in the third, Berenson finished things off with his 6th goal of the game at 14:04 of the period. Red had 10 shots on Philadelphia goalie Doug Favell, representing a third of all shots put toward Favell that night. Berenson also added an assist on Noel Picard's goal for a 7-point night. On the season, Red totaled 35 goals for the Blues. Along with his 47 assists for 82 points, it would be the top offensive season of his lengthy NHL career. Berenson played 987 regular season and 85 playoff games in the National Hockey League between 1961-62 and 1977-78 with the Montreal Canadiens, New York Rangers, St. Louis Blues, and Detroit Red Wings. with the 1961-62 University of Michigan Wolverines. Red Berenson played 3 years with the Wolverines, but it was in his final season, 1961-62, where he made his mark. Red scored 43 goals and totaled 70 points in 28 games to finish 4th in NCAA scoring. In the WCHA, he was the most valuable player and a first-team All-Star. He was also an NCAA West All-Star. Michigan competed in the Final Four tournament in Utica, New York. The team was bounced by Clarkson in the semifinal and won the third-place game over St. Lawrence. The Sillaps 1974-75 O-Pee-Chee number 13 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, Sill is the son of a member of Hockey's Hall of Fame. His dad was a star with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Young Sill has reached stardom. He's a fine playmaker who led the Penguins in scoring for 3 straight seasons. A specialist on the Pittsburgh power play, Sill once scored 2 goals inside of 20 seconds. The Penguins acquired Sill during the 1970-71 season. Sill once scored 4 points in 1 period. A closer look. Sillaps started his NHL career with the New York Rangers in 70-71. However, he lasted with the club just 31 games before a January 26, 1971 trade sent him to the Pittsburgh Penguins for Glenn Sather. Apps consistently put up good offensive numbers during his time with the Penguins. He peaked in 75-76 with 32 goals and 67 assists for 99 points. The point total was good for 10th in the NHL, but surprisingly just 3rd on the Penguins, behind Pierre LaRouche and Jean Pronovo. The Ted Hampson 1973-74 Quaker Oats WHA number 4 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, Ted Hampson's finest achievement came in 1968-69 when he was awarded the NHL's Bill Masterton Memorial Trophy for his fine display of sportsmanship and dedication to hockey. He puts his team first, his teammates second, and himself last. He's a 9-year veteran of the NHL, having played with Toronto, New York, Detroit, Oakland, and the North Stars. He had 115 lifetime goals in the NHL and 252 assists. Probably Ted is best known for his playmaking ability, but is also considered one of the best penalty killers in the game. He had 17 goals and 45 assists for the Saints last year. A closer look. In his 1972-73 season, noted above, would be his most offensively productive during his days in the World Hockey Association. Ted Hampson played in the WHA for 4 seasons, from 1972-73 to 1975-76. All but 14 of his games were played with the Minnesota Fighting Saints. He joined the Quebec Nordiques for the remainder of the 1975-76 season, after the Fighting Saints folded on February 28, 1976. Hampson played 676 regular season and 35 Stanley Cup playoff games in the National Hockey League between 1959-60 and 1971-72. His best season came with the Oakland Seals in 1968-69, when he scored 26 goals and assisted on 49 for 75 total points. He also added 7 points in 7 playoff games that year. The Tim Horton 1964-65 Topps number 102 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, Tim has been with Toronto since 1952-53. He played junior hockey with St. Mike's and spent 3 years with Pittsburgh before joining the Maple Leafs. Tim was named to the first All-Star team last winter and was a member of the second team twice. He missed much of the 1955-56 season with a broken leg and jaw. A closer look. The Pittsburgh referred to on the back of the card is the Pittsburgh Hornets of the American Hockey League. Tim Horton played 3 years with that AHL club from 1949-50 to 51-52. The 50-51 Hornets reached the Calder Cup final before losing to the Cleveland Barons. In 51-52, the team finished first overall during the regular season and captured the championship with a win over the Providence Reds in the final. That team was coached by King Clancy and led by another future Toronto great, George Armstrong. The Allan Stanley 1957-58 Topps number 15 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, Allan was a Bruin defense prospect 15 years ago, but detoured to Rangers as well as Chicago before Boston landed him last season. He steadied backline with slick plays. Who holds the record for most goals in season? Maurice Richard with 50. A closer look. Allan Stanley's time with the Boston Bruins was short. The 1957-58 season would be his last with the club. On October 8, 1958, Stanley was traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs in exchange for Jim Morrison. It was with the Leafs that Allan would make his mark on the game. He helped the team win the Stanley Cup championship 4 times and was named a second-team All-Star on 3 occasions. Stanley played 1,244 regular season and 109 playoff games in the National Hockey League between 1948-49 and 1968-69 with the New York Rangers, Chicago Blackhawks, Boston Bruins, Toronto Maple Leafs, and Philadelphia Flyers. He was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1981. As for the goal scoring record, at the time of this hockey card's production, only one player had reached the 50-goal plateau, and that was about a decade and a half before. Maurice Richard was the only player with a 50-goal season, and that was accomplished way back in 1944-45. Bernie Geoffrion would tie the mark during the 1960-61 NHL season. Bobby Hull would also reach 50 in 61-62. From there, Hull would increase the record to 58 by 1968-69. 2 years later, Phil Esposito jacked the number to 76. Of course, in 1981-82, Wayne Gretzky set the virtually unattainable current mark of 92 goals. The Bernie Parent 1973-74 O-Pee-Chee number 66 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, Bernie came out of the Boston Bruins farm system. Bernie has an extra quick glove hand and he's quick on his feet. He broke into the NHL with Boston in 1965. Bernie is an original member of the Flyers. A closer look. What the back of this 1973-74 O-Pee-Chee Bernie Parent card doesn't note is that the stats on the back for 1972-73 are with the Philadelphia Blazers in the World Hockey Association. 1973-74 marked a return to the Flyers after the team traded Parent to the Toronto Maple Leafs during the 1970-71 NHL season. Bernie played just a single year in the WHA. The Flyers put him to work in 73-74. Parent played in 73 of the team's 78 regular season games. He played in all 17 playoff games as the Broad Street Bullies captured their first Stanley Cup championship. The Andre Boudrias 1969-70 O-Pee-Chee number 16 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, Andy is just a little guy, but he can fly. The helmeted center is quite durable and he seldom misses a game. Was top scoring rookie in first year of expansion, 1966-67. Has played for 4 NHL teams, and the Blues are his 5th. A closer look. First off, error. The first year of expansion was 1967-68, not 1966-67. And it was in 1967-68 that Andre Boudrias led NHL rookie scorers with 53 points as a member of the Minnesota North Stars. However, he was left off the balloting for the Calder Trophy, not even placing in the top 5. Derek Sanderson of the Boston Bruins won the award. In the running were Jacques Lemaire, Doug Fowle, Bill Flett, and Les Binkley. Secondly, error. The St. Louis Blues were Andre's 4th NHL team. He came up through the Montreal Canadiens system and saw very limited time in the National Hockey League, appearing in 7 games with the Montreal Canadiens over 3 years from 1963-64 to 1966-67. He was traded to the North Stars prior to their inaugural 1967-68 NHL season. Boudrias also appeared in 20 games with the Chicago Blackhawks to end the 1968-69 season. A 5th team would come, but not until the start of the 70-71 year. Andre moved to the expansion Vancouver Canucks, and the bulk of his career was spent with that club, playing with them until the end of the 1975-76 campaign. The Bill Goldsworthy 1973-74 O-Pee-Chee number 62 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, Bill and Cesar Maniego are the only 2 players left from the original Minnesota team of 1967. Bill broke into the NHL with Boston before becoming a star and a real fan favorite with Minnesota. Bill is the author of a book on his career, The Goldie Shuffle. A closer look. Goldsworthy would stay with the North Stars until 16 games into the 1976-77 NHL season. At that time, he was traded to the New York Rangers for Nick Beverly and Bill Fairbairn. Maniego would leave the season before making 1975-76 his last with Minnesota. He would play for the Vancouver Canucks for his final 2 seasons in the National Hockey League, 1976-77 and 1977-78.